Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Happy Tuesday. Thank you if you're joining me live. Thank you if you're checking me out later. I appreciate it. Always open to feedback and encouragement. So ping me if you have thoughts. As you were following me, I think on Sunday, you know that I was going to reset the books in my background. Let me know how you like those. If you're one of the many authors that I talk about and that we're connected, tell me how I can order a case of your books and I'll put them in the background. Renee, if you're listening, that's you. Chris Welton, if you're listening, tell me how to get a case of books. Kyle Draper, if you're listening, connect with me. Tell me how to put a case of your books behind me. Happy to pay for them all. So thank you guys. I am going to talk about ICE's Mortgage Monitor report, their July report. Now, I've already featured some data from this report last week. I featured capture rates from servicers and lenders on refis, and so we're not going to talk about that now. There's, I think, 26 pages packed of great charts and graphs and data, and so I'm going to talk about something else. I'm going to do a top 10. I'm going to do a top 10 list and two top 8 lists from the data in the mortgage monitor report. So first, and then I'm gonna just end with some frivolous fund information. So if you stay to the end, know I have some frivolous fund data coming. But top 10 reasons why people choose to rent. Top 10 reasons why people choose to rent versus buy. So why do you rent versus buy? Number one, I cannot afford to buy where I want. 40% of people say I cannot afford to buy where I want, so I'll rent there instead. 35% people say, heck, I like renting. I'm just happy renting. I'm a renter. That's why I rent, so leave me alone. Good for those people. We like people that have happiness. Good for them. We all want to be happy. Number 3 response, I haven't saved enough. So a third of people think they haven't saved enough. Now, these are people that are opportunities for us, whether you're real estate or mortgage. We can go and educate those people. A third of renters think they don't have enough money to go buy. And of course they have enough money. Of course, with low down payment programs, with DAP programs, down payment assistance programs, everybody can afford to buy. If you don't have to worry about the money to buy, you just have to worry about making the payment. So that's a huge opportunity. Number 4 response, 20% of the people said, heck, I don't want to own a home because I don't want to worry about the maintenance. Legitimate. That's kind of the same boat as people that like renting, right? If 35% of people like to rent and 20%, and by the way, these are just the top responses. You can respond to more than one answer, so this is going to equal more than 100%. Don't ping me about my math. Wasn't my survey. So 20% of people, I don't want to be bothered with the maintenance, and those are probably the same group that are happy renting, right? The other thing is 18% in the same vein, 18% said, hey, I like the flexibility of being able to pick up and leave anytime. If I rent, it's flexible. I can be out at the end of the month. Nobody cares. So flexibility, right? 17% said they haven't found the right house or neighborhood. Once again, something we can solve, right? We can solve, hey, I don't think I saved enough. We can solve, I just can't find a good place to live. We can solve those things, right? Another 17% said that they're renting because they fear their ability to qualify for a loan. Something else we can fix, right? There's things here on these top survey results that we can definitely help. That's where first-time home buyer education comes into play, right? That's what we need to do doing home buyer seminars. We can definitely show people that how much they need to have to close. They don't need to have a ton. We can show them how to be able to work with a real estate agent to find them the house they want. We can tell them whether they qualify or not, right? We can definitively tell them. And 70% said they're renting because they're worried about the economy or their job security. All right, I kind of get that, right? But it doesn't get easier to buy. I would still want to talk to those folks. 16% said, hey, I just don't need the pressure of owning. I don't need the financial responsibility of owning, right? And then 14% said, hey, the home buying process is just way too overwhelming. I don't want to deal with the stress. So out of these, a handful are things that, hey, they're happy renting, right? I like renting. I don't want to deal with maintenance. I like the flexibility. I can leave anytime. I don't want more financial responsibility. Those folks, we probably won't change their minds. But the people that don't think they've saved enough or don't know if they can find the right house or don't know if they can qualify, right? Or the process is overwhelming, those folks we can help. So we need to get out there and do seminars, right? We need to go out there and talk to folks, knock on doors. Those are potential clients whom we should help achieve the American dream. Just with a little bit of expertise, a little bit of advice, a little coaching, we can help those people succeed. And that's what the survey is pointing to. And I really like that survey. So moving on, let's talk about people that own homes. Let's see what the survey results said about why they want to sell their house or why they refuse to sell their house. Still interesting topic, right? So the reason why homeowners are likely to sell their house, what motivates them to sell their house, the number one answer, and I wonder how much of this is a post-pandemic answer, because the number one answer, 36% of people, so they just want to change the scenery, location. Thinking back to, when I was a wee little kid a long time ago, I don't think it was in my parents' mind that just change for scenery. Like, you owned your house, you grew roots. You didn't move. You didn't go, gosh, I think it'd be nice if I lived closer to the lake, or if I lived on the other side of town, or unless there was crime or something. People just didn't do that. But in the pandemic years, where we all moved all over the place, when we were no longer tethered to an office, where we lived, what we saw outside our window became important. So 36% will move just for change of scenery. 33% want to upsize or downsize. Makes sense, right? I'm an empty nester. I could probably, benefit from downsizing. So about a third want to downsize. Interesting, 31% want to just take their money off the table, meaning they want to cash out their equity, sell their house, get it in liquid assets, right? So to realize their equity or home value. 27% want to sell due to market conditions. I don't know what that means. It doesn't say what market conditions, but 27% think the market conditions make it an ideal time to sell. 26% want to move closer to family. Definitely possible, right? I can tell you, our family here, my wife Belinda is going to practice my big fat Greek wedding strategy. That when our son Vincent starts having grandbabies, we're buying the house next door to him, wherever that happens to be. So Vincent, if you're listening, just know we're going to occupy the house next to you, across the street, however it's going to be. So 26% of people move closer to family. 20% want to sell their house so they don't have to do repairs, right? They got a bad roof. They don't want to spend $12,000 to fix the roof, so they're going to sell the house. And then 20% want to be in a different school district. So we kind of know all that stuff, right? Makes sense. Those people that are willing to sell their house, they're eager to sell their house. And obviously, we just need to go find those folks, right? Now, the 8 reasons why people are choosing not to sell their house, right? The reason why people that own a home won't sell their house, interesting here too. 1, they like their house. That seems kind of obvious. Why aren't you selling? Because I like it here. I like my home. I like my neighborhood. 44%. I like my home. I'm not selling. Leave me alone. Good for them. 33% because of rising interest rates. And so that's the lock-in effect. About 33% of people, feel that they're locked into a low rate and they're not going to sell their house. Do you guys want some... I wonder if I have it here. I was going to give you some very interesting statistics. I'll do it tomorrow, maybe, talking about the average interest rate, how the average outstanding interest rate has raised significantly, contrary to what we think. I'll make that my topic tomorrow. So sorry. So we'll talk about the lock-in effect tomorrow. Number 3, prices are too high. Now, and it's 30% of people say, I'm not going to sell my home because prices are too high. That doesn't make a ton of sense to me, because if, let's say, prices are high, well, it means you're selling high, buying high, right? If prices were low, you're selling low, buying low. I would think that we could possibly talk somebody through that. Now, there's definitely tranches where, like we've had in the past, where, expensive homes were selling low while entry-level homes were selling high. Like, I understand that. Like, the price difference from what I'm buying and selling makes it, the arbitrage doesn't make sense, but generally speaking, if you can sell high, then buying high isn't necessarily a problem. And if you can sell low, then buying low is your benefit. But nevertheless, I didn't answer this. This is what the poll results are. 25% said, I'm not moving because I just bought my house. Makes sense, right? All right. I'm not moving. I just got here. 17% aren't moving because they want to address deferred maintenance. They want to still do some repairs. Seems like we can kind of help those folks. If I was a real estate agent, I could probably say, hey, I have contractors and vendors that can help you. I can get this done quickly. We can do whatever we need to sell it, but that seems to be something that's just a continuous issue. 15% don't want to sell their home because they don't think they can find a home. like low inventory. Hey, I'm not moving because there's no inventory available. Sorry. 15% said, hey, I'm not buying or selling because it's a pain in the ass. By the way, that's the technical term. I'm sorry, I'm using technical terms. But about 15% say, hey, it's just a pain. I'm not doing it, man. And then another 14% say, it's the whole thought of it's overwhelming. I mean, it's overwhelming. I'm not going to do it. So there you go. The reasons why people rent, which is showing tons of opportunity. The reason why people are open to selling, which, by the way, if you are armed with this, it seems like you could create objection handling scripts to try to get to the home buyer's true thought or need, right? And then reasons why they're not going to sell their home. You know, a lot of those are legitimate reasons. We just need to pay attention to the market and connect with those folks. So when the market becomes such that those objections no longer exist, and it might be time to go and help those people. So that's all that data was from the Mortgage Monitor report. I think it was from pages 13, 15, and 17, something like that. So it's kind of midway through the report. Just a massive amount of data, that report. This is going to be the last time I refer to this report this month, I think. Earlier I did the capture rates. But now, let's do some fun stuff. I'm going to do two things here, fun stuff. I have this article called We're Not Buying It. And it was from, I believe it was from Sherwood. And they had three really interesting statistics. And this dovetails with what I was talking about yesterday about how consumer spending behavior is changing, right? And I'm going to give you three massive shifts in spending that actually have a huge impact on the economy and on inflation. Number one, people are holding on to their iPhones longer. In fact, the average person, right, the average buyer of an iPhone had their previous phone for over 3 years. And so we own our iPhones now for longer than 3 years. Now they cost a ton, so I don't blame us for doing that. But the change is that is a significant change. That's up 6% from a decade ago. So a decade ago, we weren't keeping our phones for 3 years, but now we are. Well, that means a decade ago, we were buying more phones, spending more money, right? And now we're slowing that down, 6% less, 6%, it was a considerable 6% of people, 10 years ago kept their phones for 10 years. But that's not the big number. These numbers get bigger and bigger when I talk about the three massive changes. So cell phones, number one. And by the way, with Android, it's 22% of the people keep their Android for 3 years because those things you can throw away. Or you could argue they innovate so quickly that you want the next version. I'm sorry, I'm an Apple person, so sorry about that editorial. Going on to the next thing, used cars. So on cars, this is really interesting. On average, the average age of cars on the road today is 14 years old. 14 years old. You remember when Obama had the buy the clunker thing where he bought all the old cars so that everybody had late model cars? It was in his first term. Not exactly sure why he did that. I think he did it under the guise of, saving the planet, cleaning the environment. We'll give you 500, 1,000, whatever he gave people to give those their clunkers, cash for clunkers, and then people go buy new cars. Well, lo and behold, here, 10 years later, the average age of a car is 14 years old. And you know what it was 10 years ago? 11 years. So that's a big change, right? 11 years versus 14 years. That change in just 10 years, that's a big change pattern, right? We're holding our cars for 30% longer, 35% longer. Now, cars, you could argue, are made better today. They're more technologically advanced. People are less afraid to trade their car in before 100,000 miles. So that all plays a role into it. Cars are super expensive. Who wants to buy a new car? But that's a change in behavior. And we're starting to see it because the speed of car sales is slowing down dramatically. And that's because we're holding our cars longer. Today, 14 years versus 10 years ago, 11 years. Now, here's the third thing, and this is what you guys are going to be most interested in. This is a surprising statistic that I'm going to give you. People are living in their homes nearly twice as long as they did 20 years ago. Yeah, who would have thought that, right? 20 years ago, we lived in our homes on average, about 6 years. About every 6 years we moved, 20 years ago, in the early 2000s. About every 6 years moved. Today, every 12 years. It's twice as long. As a matter of fact, it had that time span had been increasing every year until 2023. 2023 was slightly shorter than what the number was in 2022, where it was around 13 years. So now it's like 12.6, something like that. So people are living in their homes for an average of 12.6 years. Completely different. Now, if you're a lender, that's really important because we do mortgage advice. We used to say, hey, look, you're only going to live for 6 years. So we don't need to get a 30-year mortgage. Let's get a mortgage that meets your term of being in the house, right? But that's not true anymore. If you're going to be here 12 years, we have to have different advice. Now, we might say, hey, you might have a shorter length term because rates are high and you're going to refinance, but we can no longer say because history shows you're going to move in 6 or 7 years because that's not what history shows. 12 years. 3 interesting statistics. It's like I said yesterday. Can we look at data? Can we look at what we see with our own eyes, what we experience, and can we come to our own conclusions or conviction? What does it mean that people are holding on to their phones longer? What does it mean that people are holding on to their cars longer? What does it mean that people are staying in their houses longer? You know, what does it mean? What does it mean that there's less inventory? What does it mean that builders are building less houses? What does it all mean? And if we take all that and we put it into the pot and we make a stew, what are we serving? Meaning, what do we see? Where do we need to go? Where's the puck headed? Now, I'm going to end with just 3 or 4 really interesting statistics. And you guys may not think this is interesting to you, and you may think it does not apply because I'm talking locally. I'm going to give you some critical statistics from the San Diego Fair. So the San Diego has a very large fair. I'm sure wherever you live, your town has a fair. It may be big, it may be small. I can tell you here in San Diego, it's big, super big, right? And the county fair is here big, called the San Diego County Fair. It's at Del Mar Fairgrounds. That's also where they have the Del Mar races, which is great. The races start in about 12 days because the racetrack needs about 10 days to clean up all the mess from all the humans that stayed at the fair. But some interesting statistics from this. And the San Diego Fair lasts 20 days. And I know, just think that this is the fair in your town because the statistics are going to be somewhat similar. In the 20 days that the fair was open, how many of those giant turkey legs do you think they sold? You know those giant, Fred Flintstone turkey legs, the smoked ones that you see everywhere? 20 days they sold 28,569 turkey legs. 28,569 turkey legs. I didn't see what the price was. I think they're around $20. I mean, everything's $20 there. That seems like a lot of turkey leg money. Like, where else do you sell that many turkey legs? Like, do people even like turkey legs? You put it on your Thanksgiving platter just... I do it for like a dress, like a prop, but nobody ever eats those things. 28,000. They do look great on the giant grills they have them on, although they look like they've been sitting there for about 6 weeks. All right, so if they did 28,569 turkey legs, how many gallons of lemonade do they sell with that? Because I guess you'd need lemonade after eating that dried out, leathery turkey leg thing, right? Well, the answer is, for the 20 days that they were there, they sold 20,100 gallons of lemonade. 20,100 gallons. And I believe that's fresh squeezed. So that's a lot of lemons. That's making lemons into lemonade. I don't know. I mean, it seems now, at first, I was trying to get over the thought of eating a turkey leg. Now I'm trying to get over the thought of drinking the tart lemon juice. All right, but, a couple other statistics, and I'll get out of this because you guys probably don't even care. Of course, you can just log out if you like it. They sold on the livestock auctions, because every fair has to sell animals. It doesn't matter. It could be a fair in the middle of LA or New York City. They're going to sell animals. They sold 245 animals at the live auctions. I would love to bid on an animal live auction. I would probably keep it as a pet. I'd probably buy a cow and go, oh, Ferdinand has to come home. We're not going to butcher it. But anyway, 245 animals sold for $657,000. That's real money, right? So your little 4-H person, your growing Ferdinand, your little cow or whatever, or your little pig or your llama or your chicken, 245 of them sold for $657,565. That seems a lot per animal. I should have done the math, but it seems like a lot. That's like, $2,700, something like per animal. That's a lot for a chicken. No, but probably not for the chicken, probably for the cows and the pigs, obviously. All right, so a total of nearly 880,000 people went to the fair in 20 days. It was 2 days shorter than most fair cycles. That's a lot. Almost 1 million people went to the fair in San Diego. Interesting, right? And this is the most interesting thing of all. If I asked you what the busiest days at the fair are, and I gave you 4 choices, there's only 7 days in a week, you wouldn't choose it. You'd be wrong. Because it's closed Monday and Tuesday. Okay, I guess you would with 4 choices because that gives you all the days. Wednesday and Thursdays were the busiest days at the fair because that's when they scheduled headline bands. There you go. So we got the top 10 lists of why people are renters, the top 8 lists of why people are selling homes, the top 8 lists of why people don't sell their homes. We talked about the 3 massive changes in consumer behavior with cell phones, cars, and houses. And then we talked turkey. That's all I got. I'll see everybody tomorrow. Have a great day. Thanks you for checking me out. Bye.